Welcome back, everyone. We're glad you're here with us. In August 2024, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in decades, a photographer captured footage of a classified aircraft entering the most mysterious building at Area 51, 18, Hangar 18. The aircraft was the RAT-55, a heavily modified Boeing 737 with the call sign Sabre 98, from 26 miles away atop Tikaboo Peak. Aviation photographer Michael Rokita watched through his camera as this radar-testing jet performed touch-and-go maneuvers before taxiing directly into the legendary hangar. For decades, Hangar 18 has been the focus of conspiracy theories, with rumors suggesting it houses wreckage from UFO crashes, extraterrestrial technology, and even evidence of alien life. So, here's the question that's kept researchers awake for years. Have we finally found the real UFO hangar? The one where alien craft are stored, studied, and perhaps even reverse engineered? While there is no verifiable proof of such claims, the connection between the newly sighted RAT-55 and the hangar has further fueled speculation about what lies hidden in Nevada's desert. Tonight, we're stepping inside the most secret building at the world's most secret base. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe is really stored in Hangar 18? Now, let's unlock the vault of America's deepest mystery. Chapter 1. The Hunt for Hangar 18. Picture standing in a movie theater in 1980. On the screen, a massive hangar door slides open to reveal rows of covered objects, their shapes hinting at technology from another world. The film is called Hangar 18, and for millions of viewers, it planted a seed. Somewhere in America's most secret facilities, alien craft were being stored and studied. But the movie got one thing wrong. The real Hangar 18 wasn't where they filmed it. It was hundreds of miles away, hidden in a desert that most Americans would never see. The legend of Hangar 18 began long before Hollywood discovered it. The original building bearing that designation sat at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, a sprawling complex that had been the military's center for foreign technology analysis since World War II. During the late 1940s and early 50s, whispers circulated about unusual materials being studied there, debris from crashed aircraft that didn't match anything in known arsenals. When the Roswell incident exploded into public consciousness decades later, researchers naturally connected the dots. If alien wreckage had been recovered in New Mexico, Wright-Patterson's Hangar 18 would be the logical destination. It had the facilities, the security, and the expertise to handle something extraordinary. But by the 1960s, as Area 51 began its evolution from secret airstrip to aerospace testing fortress, the name began to migrate west. Insiders spoke in careful code about facilities in Nevada that made Wright-Patterson look transparent by comparison. Buildings so classified that even their designation numbers were considered sensitive. The search for the real Hangar 18 became an obsession for UFO researchers. They pored over aviation magazines, declassified documents, and occasional leaked photographs, looking for clues about where the most sensitive materials were actually kept. The consensus pointed toward Groom Lake, but which building, and what was inside it? Early satellite imagery from the 1970s and 80s revealed a growing complex at Area 51, but resolution was poor and details were scarce. Researchers could see rectangular shapes that suggested large buildings, but nothing definitive. The military's security apparatus was specifically designed to thwart this kind of observation. Buildings were positioned to minimize clear angles, and sensitive activities were conducted undercover whenever possible. It wasn't until the late 1980s that commercial satellite technology advanced enough to provide useful detail. Images from this period showed a massive structure under construction at the southern end of Groom Lake. The building was enormous, clearly designed to house something far larger than conventional aircraft. Aviation analysts noted several unusual features. The hangar's doors were sized to accommodate objects with exceptional height and width. The building's orientation seemed calculated to provide maximum privacy from the most common satellite pass angles. And its isolated position, separated from the main cluster of base facilities, suggested it was reserved for especially sensitive work. By the early 1990s, the structure was complete and operational. UFO researchers had found their candidate for the Nevada Hangar 18. The building matched every requirement for housing recovered alien technology: massive size, extreme isolation, and security measures that exceeded even Area 51's stringent standards. Testimonies began to surface from alleged insiders who claimed to have worked near or inside the facility. They described a building unlike anything they had seen at other military installations. Multiple levels, both above and below ground, climate control systems designed for long-term preservation, and, most intriguingly, viewing areas where personnel could observe objects without directly accessing them. One former contractor, speaking anonymously in the mid-1990s, described being escorted past the hangar during a night shift. Through a partially open service door, he glimpsed what appeared to be several large objects under heavy tarps. The shapes, he said, didn't match the profile of any aircraft in the U.S. inventory. Too wide, too curved, lacking the familiar lines of wings or fuselage. Security around the building was reportedly absolute. Personnel who worked there were transported separately from other base employees. They underwent additional background checks and signed agreements that went beyond standard military secrecy oaths. Some accounts suggest that even high-ranking officers were denied access unless their mission specifically required it. The building's designation as Hangar 18 became semi-official among researchers, though whether the military ever used that specific number remains unclear. In satellite images, it appeared as the largest enclosed space at Groom Lake, capable of housing multiple aircraft simultaneously or single objects of unprecedented size. What made the search for this particular hangar so compelling was its timing. Construction began during a period when UFO sightings were surging nationwide. The 1980s had seen a wave of reports about triangular craft, silent hovering objects, and technology that defied conventional explanation. If the military had recovered examples of such craft, a facility like this would be essential for study and storage. The hangar also coincided with dramatic advances in American stealth technology. The F-117 Nighthawk, B-2 Spirit, and other revolutionary aircraft emerged from black projects during this same period. Skeptics argued that the massive hangar was simply part of this conventional weapons development, but believers pointed out that stealth aircraft, however advanced, were still recognizably human in design. They had wings, engines, and proportions that made aerodynamic sense. What if something recovered from a crash site didn't follow those rules? What if it operated on principles that hadn't appeared in any textbook? Such an object would require a facility designed not just for storage, but for decades of patient study. By the late 1990s, satellite resolution had improved enough to reveal additional details. The hangar's doors appeared to be segmented, allowing partial opening for smaller objects while maintaining security for larger ones. New buildings appeared nearby, possibly support facilities or specialized laboratories. The entire southern section of Groom Lake was evolving into what researchers called a facility within a facility. The hunt for Hangar 18 had become more than academic curiosity. It represented the search for physical proof that humanity wasn't alone. If alien technology was being studied anywhere on Earth, this massive, isolated, heavily guarded building seemed like the most logical location. But finding the building was only the beginning. The real question was what lay inside those sealed doors, and whether the decades of speculation, rumor, and careful investigation would ever be validated by direct evidence. As the new millennium arrived, the hangar remained as mysterious as ever. Larger, more sophisticated, and more heavily protected than when construction first began. Whatever secrets it held were locked away behind layers of security that seemed designed to outlast generations. The hunt for Hangar 18 had led researchers to a building that perfectly matched their theories. Whether it would ever yield its secrets was another question entirely. Chapter 2: Michael Rokita's historic footage. The alarm went off at 4:30 in the morning on August 13th, 2024. Michael Rokita, a Polish aviation photographer known for his dedication to capturing classified aircraft, had made this journey before, but something felt different about this trip to Tikaboo Peak. 26 miles. That's the distance between the only legal public vantage point overlooking Area 51 and the mysterious hangar that had captivated researchers for decades. For most people, 26 miles might as well be 26,000. The heat shimmer, atmospheric distortion, and sheer physics of long-distance photography make capturing usable footage nearly impossible. But Rokita wasn't most people. He had spent years perfecting his techniques, building custom equipment, and learning to read the desert's moods. His YouTube channel had become a destination for aviation enthusiasts who craved glimpses of aircraft that officially didn't exist. The hike to Tikaboo Peak is grueling under the best conditions. 3 miles of steep, rocky terrain with no shade and no water sources. In August, with temperatures climbing toward 110 degrees, it becomes a test of endurance. Rokita carried more than 30 pounds of camera equipment, water, and backup batteries up the mountain in pre-dawn darkness. His primary weapon was a Nikon P1000, a camera with an 83 times optical zoom that could theoretically bring distant objects close enough to resolve meaningful detail. But theory and practice are different things in the Nevada desert. Heat creates mirages that dance across the lens. Atmospheric turbulence turns sharp edges into blurry approximations. And the slightest vibration at maximum zoom renders footage unusable. To combat these challenges, Rokita had developed a custom rig combining high-powered binoculars with smartphone recording capability. This allowed him to track aircraft movement while simultaneously capturing backup footage. Every serious Area 51 watcher knows that the most important sightings happen when you least expect them. As dawn broke over Groom Lake, Rokita settled into position and began his watch. The base appeared quiet, a collection of distant buildings shimmering in the morning heat. For hours, nothing moved except the occasional vehicle on the perimeter roads. Then, at approximately 7:09 a.m., something appeared in the restricted airspace above the base. A dark shape climbing from runway 32, moving with the deliberate pace of a heavy aircraft. Through his telephoto lens, Rokita could see it was a modified Boeing 737. distinctive bulges and antenna arrays marking it as something far from civilian. This was Rat 55, though Rokita wouldn't confirm the aircraft's identity until later analysis. What he could see immediately was unusual flight behavior. The aircraft performed several touch-and-go maneuvers, approaching the runway, touching down briefly, then climbing away again. This pattern repeated multiple times, as if the crew was practicing or testing specific procedures. For Rokita, every second was critical. His camera batteries were already beginning to drain in the desert heat. The atmospheric conditions that allowed clear viewing might change without warning. And there was always the possibility that security personnel were monitoring his position with their own long-range optics. The breakthrough moment came when the aircraft completed its final approach. Instead of another touch and go, Rat 55 rolled to a complete stop on runway 32. Rokita adjusted his zoom, fighting heat distortion and the natural shake of holding a heavy telephoto lens at maximum magnification. What happened next had never been captured on video before. The aircraft taxied away from the main runway complex, moving toward the southern section of the base, where the massive hangar sat like a monument to secrets. As Rokita tracked the aircraft's movement, he realized with growing excitement that it was heading directly toward Hangar 18. The hangar's doors, invisible at this distance to the naked eye, began to part. Through his lens, Rokita could see the massive structure opening like a mechanical cavern. The aircraft continued its approach, growing smaller as it moved deeper into the restricted zone until it disappeared entirely into the building. The doors closed. For aviation researchers, this footage represented a breakthrough that had been decades in the making. Never before had anyone captured clear video evidence of a classified aircraft entering the legendary hangar. The implications rippled through online communities dedicated to Area 51 research. Frame-by-frame analysis revealed details that enhanced the significance of the sighting. The aircraft's approach path suggested it was following established procedures, not conducting a one-time visit. The hangar doors opened with mechanical precision, indicating regular use, and the timing coincided with unusual activity levels at other parts of the base. Aviation experts who analyzed Rokita's footage noted several important factors. Rat 55's distinctive modifications mark it as a radar cross-section testing platform designed to evaluate the stealth characteristics of other aircraft. Its presence at Groom Lake suggested ongoing classified projects that required precisely this type of evaluation. But why Hangar 18 specifically? The building's size and isolated position made it ideal for housing aircraft that required maximum security. If Rat 55 was testing the radar signature of something housed in that hangar, it implied the presence of technology significant enough to warrant the most advanced evaluation methods available. The technical challenges Rokita overcame to capture this footage cannot be overstated. Professional cinematographers struggle to maintain steady shots at much shorter distances with stabilized equipment. Rokita managed to track a moving aircraft 26 miles away using handheld gear in adverse conditions. Heat distortion alone should have made the footage unusable. Desert air creates layers of different temperatures that bend light like a funhouse mirror. Objects appear to swim and waver, making precise tracking nearly impossible. Yet Rokita's footage, while not Hollywood quality, clearly shows the aircraft's movement and the hangar's response. Fellow researchers immediately began verifying details from the footage. Flight tracking websites showed unusual activity in the area during the time frame. Weather conditions were optimal for long-distance observation. And most importantly, Other witnesses reported seeing unusual lights and activity at Area 51 during the same period. The footage's authenticity was further supported by Rokita's established reputation in the aviation photography community. His previous work had been featured in aviation magazines and documentary films. He had no history of fabricating content and significant credibility to lose if caught manipulating footage. Within days of posting the video to his YouTube channel, Rokita's footage had been downloaded, analyzed, and shared across dozens of research platforms. Enhancement software revealed additional details about the aircraft's configuration and the hangar's operation. Every frame was scrutinized for clues about what else might be visible in the background. The broader significance of this moment extends beyond a single aircraft entering a single building. For the first time, researchers had documented proof that Hangar 18 was actively operational, not just a storage facility. The precision with which the doors opened and closed suggested regular use, implying ongoing projects rather than static display. As Rokita packed his equipment and began the long descent from Tikaboo Peak, he knew he had captured something extraordinary. Whether it proved the existence of alien technology remained to be seen. But it confirmed that after decades of speculation, researchers had been looking in the right place. The hunt for Hangar 18's secrets had entered a new phase. The building was real, it was active, and now the world had proof. Chapter 3: The Mysterious Rat 55 Aircraft. If you saw RAT-55 parked on a commercial tarmac, you might think someone had started building an airliner and forgot to finish it. The aircraft looks like a Boeing 737 that's been through a technological metamorphosis. Bulges protrude from its belly and back like mechanical tumors. Antenna arrays sprout from surfaces that should be smooth, and that distinctive hump behind the cockpit gives it the appearance of a technological camel. But this isn't a case of poor design. Every modification serves a purpose so classified that the aircraft's true capabilities remain largely theoretical, pieced together from fragmentary observations and educated guesses by aviation analysts who spend their careers studying machines they're not supposed to see. RAT-55 began life as a standard Boeing 737-200, rolling off the production line in 1973. For its first decade, it served conventional roles within the military transport fleet. But sometime in the mid-1980s, this particular aircraft was selected for transformation into something unprecedented. The conversion turned a passenger jet into what aviation experts call a radar cross-section test platform. In simple terms, RAT-55 became a flying laboratory designed to measure how visible other aircraft are to radar systems. This capability requires sophisticated sensors, powerful computers, and the ability to operate in restricted airspace where the most sensitive testing occurs. The aircraft's most obvious modification is the large dorsal hump extending from behind the cockpit toward the wings. This contains banks of electronic equipment, including radar receivers, signal processors, and data recording systems. The belly bulge houses additional sensors and possibly a retractable antenna array that can be deployed during testing missions. What makes RAT-55 particularly intriguing is its role in the development of stealth technology. During the 1980s and 90s, the United States was pioneering aircraft designed to be nearly invisible to radar. Projects like the F-117 Nighthawk and B-2 Spirit required extensive testing to verify their stealth characteristics. Traditional ground-based radar testing has limitations. To truly understand how an aircraft appears to enemy radar systems, you need to measure its signature from multiple angles, altitudes, and positions. This requires a mobile platform capable of sophisticated measurements while both aircraft are in flight. RAT-55 fills this role with capabilities that remain largely classified. Aviation analysts believe the aircraft can measure radar cross-sections across multiple frequency bands, potentially including exotic wavelengths that might defeat conventional stealth technology. Its sensors can reportedly detect and analyze electromagnetic signatures so subtle that they're measured in fractions of what conventional radar can perceive. The aircraft's call sign, Sabre 98, adds another layer to its mystique. Military call signs are rarely random, often reflecting the aircraft's mission, base assignment, or project designation. The choice of Sabre suggests cutting-edge technology, while 98 might reference a specific test program or capability threshold. One of the most significant aspects of RAT-55's design is its ability to operate with its transponder disabled. Commercial aircraft are required to broadcast their identity and position constantly. Military aircraft can turn off these signals when operating in restricted airspace, effectively disappearing from civilian tracking systems. This capability has allowed RAT-55 to conduct missions in complete secrecy for decades. Flight tracking websites show gaps in its movement patterns, periods when the aircraft simply vanishes from public observation. These gaps often coincide with reported unusual activity at Area 51 and other classified facilities. The aircraft's connection to stealth development extends beyond passive measurement. Some reports suggest RAT-55 can simulate radar signatures of other aircraft, essentially disguising itself electronically. This would allow it to test defensive systems against threats that don't physically exist, or to evaluate how enemy radar might perceive classified American aircraft. Aviation experts who have studied RAT-55 note its extremely limited operational area. Unlike most military aircraft, which deploy globally, this platform rarely ventures outside Nevada's restricted airspace. Its missions appear concentrated around the Nevada Test and Training Range, with particular focus on Area 51 and surrounding facilities. This geographic limitation suggests RAT-55 is testing something so sensitive that even moving it to other secure locations poses unacceptable risk. The aircraft has become essentially a permanent resident of the most classified airspace in the United States, dedicated to evaluating technology too secret for testing anywhere else. Recent observations indicate the aircraft has undergone additional modifications since its original conversion. New antenna installations, updated sensor packages, and enhanced data processing capabilities suggest its mission has evolved to address emerging threats or evaluate next-generation technology. The presence of RAT-55 at Hangar 18 raises questions that extend beyond conventional aircraft testing. If the aircraft is designed to measure radar signatures, what was it evaluating inside that specific building? Conventional aircraft would typically be tested on open runways, where sensors could gather data from multiple angles. But testing inside a hangar suggests something different. Perhaps the object being evaluated was too sensitive for outdoor exposure, even within Area 51's restricted environment. Or maybe the test required controlled conditions that only an enclosed space could provide. Another possibility is that RAT-55 wasn't conducting tests at all, but rather receiving new equipment or modifications related to its mission. The aircraft's sensor packages are likely updated regularly to address evolving stealth technology and emerging radar threats. Some researchers theorize that RAT-55's true significance lies not in what it measures, but in what it proves is worth measuring. The continued operation of such a specialized platform suggests ongoing development of aircraft or technology so advanced that conventional testing methods are inadequate. The aircraft's unusual design elements hint at capabilities beyond simple radar measurement. The multiple antenna arrays could enable electronic warfare functions, communications interception, or even more exotic applications like detecting gravitational or electromagnetic anomalies. If recovered alien technology were being tested at Area 51, RAT-55 would be an ideal platform for evaluation. Its sensors could potentially detect electromagnetic signatures, propulsion effects, or other phenomena that don't exist in conventional aircraft. The data gathered could help engineers understand how such technology functions and whether it can be replicated. The aircraft's longevity is remarkable in an era of rapid technological advancement. Most military platforms are retired or significantly updated within 20 to 30 years. RAT-55 has remained operational for more than 4 decades, suggesting either exceptional versatility or a mission so specialized that no replacement exists. Recent footage showing the aircraft entering Hangar 18 marks a significant moment in its operational history. For the first time, outside observers have documented its direct connection to the facility most associated with extraordinary claims about recovered technology. Whether RAT-55 is simply a very advanced conventional test platform or something more revolutionary may never be publicly known. But its presence at Area 51, its unique capabilities, and its documented access to the most mysterious hangar in America ensure it will remain a subject of intense speculation. In the controlled environment of that massive hangar, behind doors that can accommodate aircraft of unprecedented size, RAT-55 continues its classified mission, measuring, evaluating, and recording data about technology that may represent the future of aerospace engineering, or perhaps something even more extraordinary. Chapter 4: Inside the Architecture of Secrecy. Stand at the edge of Groom Lake and look south, past the main runway complex. Beyond the cluster of conventional hangars, a massive structure rises from the desert floor like a monument to classified ambition. This is Hangar 18, and everything about its design suggests it was built to hide something extraordinary. The building's dimensions alone set it apart from anything else at Area 51. At roughly 400 feet wide and 200 feet deep, it could swallow a football field with room to spare. The roof peaks at nearly 100 feet above the desert floor, high enough to accommodate aircraft that dwarf conventional fighters or bombers. But size is only part of the story. The hangar's architecture incorporates features that speak to requirements far beyond normal aircraft storage. The doors, for instance, are engineering marvels in their own right. Each weighs hundreds of tons, yet they open and close with mechanical precision that suggests regular use rather than emergency access. Construction began in the early 1980s, during a period when Area 51 was expanding rapidly to accommodate new generations of classified aircraft. The U-2 spy plane era was giving way to stealth technology, and projects like the F-117 required facilities that could maintain absolute secrecy while housing aircraft of unprecedented design. From the beginning, Hangar 18 was different. While other buildings at the base were constructed using standard military specifications, this facility incorporated custom engineering solutions that added both cost and complexity. The foundation, for example, was reinforced far beyond what typical aircraft storage would require. Geological surveys conducted before construction revealed that workers excavated significantly deeper than the visible structure would suggest. Soil displacement calculations indicate removal of material equivalent to several underground levels, though satellite imagery shows no obvious below-ground entrances. The hangar's positioning is equally deliberate. Unlike other facilities at Area 51, which are clustered for operational efficiency, Hangar 18 sits in relative isolation. This placement maximizes security while minimizing the chance that personnel working elsewhere on the base might accidentally observe sensitive activities. During its first 2 decades of operation, from the 1980s through the mid-2000s, Hangar 18 held the distinction of being the largest enclosed space at Groom Lake. No other building could accommodate objects of comparable size, making it the logical choice for housing anything that exceeded normal aircraft dimensions. The doors deserve special attention because they reveal so much about the building's intended purpose. Rather than the simple sliding or folding mechanisms used on conventional hangars, Hangar 18 employs a complex system that allows partial opening for smaller objects while maintaining security for larger ones. Observers using telephoto lenses have noted that the doors can be configured in multiple positions. Full opening reveals the hangar's cavernous interior, but partial positions create smaller access points that maintain concealment for most of the building's contents. This flexibility suggests a facility designed to house multiple objects of varying sizes simultaneously. Climate control systems, visible in satellite imagery, indicate environmental controls far more sophisticated than typical aircraft storage requires. Multiple air handling units, redundant power systems, and what appears to be specialized ventilation suggest conditions maintained for long-term preservation rather than simple weather protection. The hangar's electrical infrastructure is equally revealing. Power lines feeding the building are sized for industrial-level consumption, far exceeding what conventional lighting and ventilation would require. This suggests equipment inside that demands substantial electrical input, possibly including specialized testing or analysis systems. Security measures around Hangar 18 exceed even Area 51's stringent standards. The building is surrounded by multiple perimeter sensors, and access roads are monitored by both fixed cameras and roving patrols. Personnel movement in the area appears more restricted than around other sensitive facilities at the base. Underground connections remain a subject of intense speculation among researchers. Construction photographs from the 1980s, obtained through Freedom of Information requests decades later, show excavation work that seems inconsistent with a simple above-ground hangar. Seismic analysis, conducted by independent researchers, suggests hollow spaces beneath the hangar extending far beyond its visible footprint. Whether these represent natural geological features or artificial construction remains unclear, but the patterns are consistent with large excavated chambers. Vehicle traffic patterns around the hangar also hint at hidden features. Service roads approach the building from multiple directions, including routes that appear to dead-end at the structure's base. This could indicate underground loading facilities that allow materials to be moved without surface exposure. The hangar's relationship to other base facilities provides additional clues about its purpose. Direct sight lines to most other buildings are blocked by terrain or intervening structures, suggesting deliberate efforts to isolate whatever activities occur inside. Even personnel working at adjacent facilities would have difficulty observing movements around Hangar 18. Materials used in construction appear designed for extreme durability. Satellite analysis reveals roofing and wall systems built to withstand conditions far beyond normal Nevada weather. This over-engineering suggests protection against threats that might not apply to conventional aircraft storage. Loading and unloading procedures around the hangar follow patterns unlike those observed at other Area 51 facilities. Large transport aircraft delivering materials to the base sometimes taxi directly to Hangar 18 rather than unloading at central cargo areas. This indicates cargo too sensitive for normal handling procedures. The building's interior layout remains largely unknown, but external features provide hints about internal organization. Multiple ventilation systems suggest separate climate zones, possibly allowing different preservation conditions for various types of materials. Emergency exits located at unusual positions indicate internal structures that don't follow conventional hangar design. Power backup systems visible around the hangar are sized for continuous operation rather than emergency use. This suggests activities inside that cannot tolerate any interruption in electrical supply, implying sensitive equipment or environmental systems that require constant power. Communication arrays mounted on the hangar appear more sophisticated than those found on other base buildings. Multiple antenna types suggest capabilities for encrypted communication, electronic jamming, or possibly more exotic functions related to electromagnetic measurement or control. The hangar's evolution over decades reflects changing requirements and expanding capabilities. Modifications visible in satellite imagery show periodic updates to access systems, security measures, and support infrastructure. Rather than remaining static, the facility has grown and adapted as its mission evolved. Recent construction around Hangar 18 includes additional security barriers and what appears to be expanded underground access points. These modifications suggest ongoing use for increasingly sensitive activities rather than simple storage of historical artifacts. Comparisons with similar facilities worldwide reveal Hangar 18's unique characteristics. While other nations operate classified aircraft facilities, none show the combination of size, security, and environmental control evident at Groom Lake. The building represents a level of investment consistent with protecting assets of extraordinary value. The question that haunts researchers is whether the hangar's elaborate design reflects the extraordinary nature of what it contains, or simply represents military over-engineering applied to conventional purposes. The building could house the most advanced aircraft in the American inventory, or it could protect something that would redefine our understanding of technology itself. What's certain is that Hangar 18 was built to keep secrets. Its massive doors, reinforced construction, and isolated position create a vault capable of hiding objects from the most sophisticated surveillance systems on Earth. Whether those objects are experimental aircraft or something more exotic may never be known from the outside. But the building itself tells a story of requirements so unusual they demanded custom solutions, of security needs so extreme they justified extraordinary expense, and of secrets considered so valuable they merited construction of one of the most secure facilities ever built. In the Nevada desert, where secrecy is measured in decades and mysteries endure across generations, Hangar 18 stands as the ultimate expression of architectural ambition applied to classified purpose. Chapter 5: The Other Mysterious Aircraft. January 26, 2022. A routine scan of satellite imagery over Area 51 revealed something that stopped researchers in their tracks. Parked on the northern apron of Hangar 18, exposed to the open sky for the first time in decades, sat an aircraft unlike anything in the known inventory of any nation on Earth. The object appeared as little more than a grey blob in the initial 3-meter resolution images from Planet Labs. But something about its shape was wrong. Too organic, too flowing for conventional aerospace design. When high-resolution imagery became available 3 days later, the full magnitude of the discovery became clear. This was a delta-wing aircraft, but not like the angular, geometric deltas that had defined military aviation for decades. Instead, its wings curved with an almost biological elegance, sweeping back from the fuselage in smooth arcs that seemed to ripple like frozen water. The leading edges followed what aerodynamicists call an ogival design, similar to the supersonic Concorde, but taken to an extreme that bordered on the sculptural. The aircraft measured approximately 65 feet from nose to tail and 50 feet from wingtip to wingtip, placing it in the size category of a fighter aircraft rather than a bomber or transport. But its proportions defied easy categorization. Where conventional aircraft show clear distinctions between fuselage, wings, and control surfaces, this craft seemed to flow seamlessly from one element to another. Most striking were the wingtips, which curved upward in what appeared to be vertical winglets taken to an artistic extreme. These weren't the simple fins found on modern airliners, but sculptural elements that swept skyward like frozen flames. Aviation analysts noted that such features could serve aerodynamic purposes, reducing drag and improving efficiency, but their execution suggested priorities beyond pure function. The aircraft's surface appeared perfectly smooth, with no visible panel lines, access hatches, or external equipment that would typically mark a military aircraft. This seamless construction implied manufacturing techniques that pushed the boundaries of current aerospace capability. Creating large aircraft sections without joints or seams requires either revolutionary materials, science, or construction methods not widely known. Color analysis revealed a finish that seemed to shift depending on lighting conditions and viewing angle. Rather than conventional paint, the surface appeared to have an almost iridescent quality, suggesting materials designed for specific electromagnetic properties. Such coatings could serve stealth purposes, but they might also indicate more exotic functions. The aircraft's position under a skeletal shelter structure provided additional clues about its nature. The shelter's rear wall was erected, but its top covering remained absent, creating a partially concealed arrangement that suggested the craft's exposure was intentional but limited. This implied something valuable enough to protect from weather, but not sensitive enough to require complete concealment. Propulsion systems remained invisible in the satellite imagery, though the aircraft's delta configuration suggested it was designed for high-speed flight. The absence of visible engine intakes or exhaust nozzles raised questions about how such a craft might achieve propulsion. Some researchers speculated about buried intakes or exotic propulsion methods that didn't require conventional air-breathing engines. The timing of the aircraft's appearance was significant. January 2022 marked a period of increased activity at Area 51, with new construction projects and unusual flight patterns reported by observers. The decision to expose this particular aircraft during this period suggested either a test program reaching a critical phase or preparation for significant operational changes. Analysis of the craft's positioning revealed careful attention to concealment from most satellite pass angles. The aircraft was placed to minimize exposure duration while allowing necessary operational access. This suggested personnel familiar with satellite surveillance patterns and committed to limiting unauthorized observation. The organic wing design prompted comparisons to biological flight systems and biomimetic engineering. Nature has evolved highly efficient flying creatures over millions of years, and aerospace engineers increasingly study these designs for inspiration. But the extreme curves and flowing surfaces of this aircraft went beyond typical biomimetic applications. Some researchers noted similarities to theoretical designs for hypersonic aircraft, vehicles capable of flying at 5 times the speed of sound or faster. Such craft require unusual shapes to manage the extreme heating and pressure changes of hypersonic flight. The organic curves might represent solutions to aerodynamic challenges that conventional angular designs cannot address. The aircraft's materials appeared to incorporate advanced composites or possibly entirely new material categories. The seamless construction and unusual surface properties suggested manufacturing capabilities that exceeded known industrial standards. Whether these represented incremental advances in conventional materials or breakthrough technologies remained unclear. Computer modeling of the aircraft's aerodynamic properties indicated performance characteristics that challenged conventional understanding. The wing design suggested capabilities for both high-speed flight and unusual maneuverability, possibly including the ability to change direction without banking or following traditional flight paths. The craft's appearance outside Hangar 18 created a direct connection between the building's mysterious contents and tangible hardware that could be observed and analyzed. For decades, researchers had speculated about what might be stored inside the massive facility. This aircraft provided the first concrete evidence of technology that matched the extraordinary claims. Security response to the aircraft's exposure was swift and comprehensive. Within 72 hours, the craft had vanished from its exposed position, presumably moved back inside Hangar 18 or relocated to another secure facility. The brief window of visibility suggested either a planned exposure or an operational requirement that couldn't be delayed. The aircraft's design elements raised questions about its origin and development timeline. The level of sophistication implied years or decades of development, yet no previous evidence of such a program had surfaced. This suggested either extraordinary security measures or a development process that occurred outside normal aerospace industry channels. International aerospace experts who analyzed the imagery noted design elements that didn't match known research programs from any nation. While several countries pursue advanced aircraft development, the organic design philosophy and seamless construction techniques appeared to represent entirely new approaches to aerospace engineering. The craft's relationship to conventional stealth technology remained unclear. While its smooth surfaces and unusual angles might serve radar-defeating purposes, the organic design suggested priorities beyond simple electromagnetic stealth. The configuration might address multiple detection methods simultaneously or incorporate entirely different approaches to avoiding detection. Some researchers speculated about the aircraft's connection to reported UFO sightings worldwide. The organic design elements and unusual proportions matched descriptions from numerous eyewitness accounts of unidentified flying objects. Whether this represented reverse engineering of recovered technology or independent development along similar lines sparked intense debate. The brief exposure of this extraordinary aircraft marked a watershed moment in Area 51 research. For the first time, observers had documented hardware that exceeded conventional aerospace boundaries while maintaining clear connections to the most secretive facility in America. The craft's disappearance back into the shadows of Hangar 18 ensured that its full capabilities and origin would remain classified. But its momentary appearance in the Nevada sunlight had revealed enough to confirm that behind those massive hangar doors, technology exists that challenges our understanding of what's possible in aerospace engineering. Whether born from human innovation or something more extraordinary, the organic Delta Wing aircraft represents a glimpse into a future where the boundaries between natural and artificial, between earthborn and otherworldly technology, become increasingly difficult to distinguish. In the controlled environment of Hangar 18, protected from curious eyes and hidden from conventional understanding, such craft continue their silent evolution toward purposes we can only imagine. Chapter 6. Testimonies from alleged insiders. They speak quietly, cautiously, these men and women who claim to have worked inside the most classified corners of Area 51. Some alter their voices in interviews. Others agree to meet only in public spaces, far from Nevada and years after their employment supposedly ended. A few, more daring or perhaps more desperate, have spoken openly, attaching their real names to stories that could wreck their reputations, or worse. What connects them all is a shared narrative about Hangar 18, not just the structure, which is visible on satellite imagery, but what they allege moves in and out of it when the rest of the world is asleep. Marcus Chen, an electrical contractor assigned to Area 51 between 1997 and 2003, had clearance only for infrastructure systems, installing and maintaining the power grid that kept the base operational. But on one October night in 2001, a clerical error changed the course of his career and perhaps his life. I was scheduled to work on the primary grid near the north runway, Chen recalls, but the coordinates were incorrect. I drove south toward the big hangar. Normally, security would have stopped me, but it was past midnight and there was a shift change happening. As his truck approached Hangar 18, the massive bay doors began to open. Inside, under intense white light, Chen glimpsed something he still struggles to describe 2 decades later. There were 3 objects, each partially covered. The shapes weren't right, too curved, too fluid. One looked like a disc, maybe 30 feet across. Another was long and narrow, almost like a cigar, but had no wings or visible engines. The third, I couldn't see all of it, but what I did see looked like liquid metal, like the surface was moving on its own. Within minutes, security intercepted Chen. He was calmly escorted away, questioned, then reassigned to a different section of the base. His future work orders were revised to ensure he never approached the southern zone again. They weren't threatening, he says, but it was made very clear that what I saw was above my clearance level and that forgetting it would be wise. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez tells a different story, yet some of her observations match Chen's. A civilian meteorologist, she was contracted from 2004 to 2007 to study atmospheric phenomena at the Nevada test site. Her role required night shifts, especially during thermal inversions when data collection was optimal. Hangar 18 was visible from my monitoring station, she says. Most nights, nothing happened, but once or twice a month, something strange would occur. Convoys would arrive. The hangar would light up, and sometimes objects would emerge that didn't make a sound. Rodriguez claims she watched, through high-powered binoculars, disc-shaped craft hovering silently above the desert floor. They would sit still for minutes, then vanish, accelerating so quickly they defied tracking. There was no sound, no visible thrust, no gradual acceleration. One moment they were there, then gone. It was like they skipped the space between 2 points. Rodriguez filed reports, noting unusual electromagnetic readings during these events. Her superiors dismissed them as equipment glitches. When she persisted, her contract was abruptly terminated. James Patterson's account comes from the security side. A former Air Force security police officer, Patterson served at Area 51 from 1995 to 2000. His patrols occasionally brought him near Hangar 18. The security around that hangar was completely different, he recalls. Extra protocols, people I didn't recognize, clearance levels I wasn't allowed to ask about. Even as base security, I was told to keep my distance. Patterson describes nights when the hangar opened and objects emerged that didn't behave like anything he had ever encountered during his military career. No jet noise, no propellers, no visible lift mechanisms. I saw things hover, accelerate, turn at impossible angles. One night, my EMF detector spiked so hard it shut down. The field coming off one of the craft overloaded it. We were trained to recognize threats from enemy surveillance equipment. This wasn't anything like that. His incident report was classified beyond his own clearance. When he tried to discuss it with technical personnel, he was told it was not within his operational purview. Another anonymous witness, known only as David M., worked as a logistics coordinator between 2010 and 2015. His job involved scheduling transport of sensitive materials between restricted sectors. Occasionally, this included deliveries to Hangar 18. The protocols were unlike anything else on base, David explains. Time-specific drop-offs, extra escorts, no records of contents beyond vague terms like non-standard materials or exotic alloys. He recalls containers that interfered with electronic equipment. Forklifts would stall when they got too close. Radios cut out. Watches went dead. We had to switch to ceramic handling tools because metal ones would just stop working near certain shipments. All these accounts, despite the lack of physical evidence, contain striking consistencies. The witnesses come from different backgrounds, time periods, and roles. Yet their testimonies repeatedly mention disc-shaped craft, extreme acceleration, silent hovering, and strong electromagnetic effects. Skeptics argue that memory is fallible and that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof, something these testimonies lack. No photos, no documents, no verifiable hardware, just stories. But the consistency across unrelated sources raises questions. How could so many individuals, separated by years and departments, describe the same unusual flight behavior and the same layers of excessive security? Linda Foster, a former administrative specialist at Area 51 from 2008 to 2012, adds one final piece to the puzzle. She managed classified schedules and observed patterns related to Hangar 18. Certain operations were always labeled special projects or compartmented activity, she explains. They were scheduled during satellite blind spots or under cloud cover, and they always lined up with the arrival of senior officials, scientists, not just military brass. To Foster, it was clear Hangar 18 wasn't just a place for hiding secret planes. Something far more sensitive was happening inside. These testimonies, unverifiable though they may be, serve an important function. They humanize the mystery. They give names, faces, and voices to an enigma that otherwise exists only in rumor and satellite images. Whether what they saw was experimental human technology, recovered alien craft, or something in between may never be proven. But their courage in speaking, risking careers, reputations, and in some cases, legal retribution, ensures the mystery of Hangar 18 endures. In the end, their stories form a kind of mosaic, incomplete but compelling, and together they keep one of the world's most tightly guarded secrets from fading into silence. Chapter 7: The Underground Network Theory. Beneath the barren Nevada desert, something vast may lie hidden, not just isolated storage vaults or concrete reinforced bunkers, but an expansive subterranean world that would render the visible facilities at Area 51 mere decoys. If the theories hold truth, then Hangar 18 is not simply a building, it is a gateway to a network of underground tunnels, massive chambers, and concealed laboratories capable of reshaping our understanding of what truly exists beneath America's most enigmatic military installation. This theory is not based solely on speculation. It stems from years of detailed analysis, geological surveys, construction records, and consistent witness testimonies, all pointing toward extensive activity occurring far beneath the surface. While some Area 51 mysteries remain in the realm of fantasy, the underground network theory is supported by observable, often measurable anomalies. Construction of Hangar 18 in the early 1980s raised eyebrows among independent researchers. Soil displacement, excavation reports, and structural blueprints, what little was publicly available, indicated that far more earth had been removed than necessary for a surface-level hangar. The volume of material shifted suggested excavation that extended downward through multiple levels. Dr. Patricia Williams, a geological engineer who reviewed Nevada test site construction records during the 1990s, discovered unusual entries related to Hangar 18. The foundation work was excessive by any normal standard, she noted. The excavation depth, concrete reinforcement, and soil displacement all implied construction far below ground level. Even with redacted documents, the engineering data spoke for itself. This wasn't just a hangar, it was the tip of something much larger. Further supporting the theory, seismic data collected in the early 2000s revealed hollow zones beneath the Groom Lake area. By analyzing patterns from local seismic activity, independent researchers mapped out regions beneath Hangar 18 that suggested massive internal voids, chambers, and tunnels laid out in geometric, artificial patterns unlikely to occur naturally. Michael Torres, a former mining engineer, reviewed the data and concluded, if these readings are accurate, we're talking about one of the largest subterranean projects in American history. Chambers several stories tall, tunnels extending miles in different directions. This kind of construction would require decades of work, enormous funding, and technological resources available only to powerful state actors. Satellite images show heavy-duty service roads leading to the base of Hangar 18, only to abruptly terminate with no visible loading docks or surface infrastructure. These roads are engineered to support industrial traffic, yet their apparent destinations offer no logical surface-based purpose. This raises the possibility that they connect to subterranean access points, concealed loading zones, or elevator systems leading below ground. Such underground logistics would solve long-standing puzzles. For decades, researchers have questioned how Area 51 could transport sensitive equipment or materials without being spotted by satellites or observers in nearby mountains. A tunnel network would make this possible. Aircraft, personnel, and even entire projects could be relocated without a single trace visible from above. Robert Kim, a former contractor who worked at the base between 1998 and 2004, offered a first-hand account of strange delivery protocols. "We would drive to these so-called drop-off points near the hangar," he said. "No visible doors or entrances. Then, a group of guys, not base regulars, would take over. The cargo was lowered underground using massive hydraulic platforms. We never saw where it went, and we were always escorted away immediately. The materials being delivered, according to Kim, were unusually dense and heavy, requiring reinforced vehicles and lifting equipment. The entire process was highly choreographed, implying a facility designed for precision underground logistics. Constructing such an underground system would present considerable engineering challenges. Nevada's desert geology includes thick caliche layers and shifting soil compositions. But such barriers are not insurmountable to an entity with near unlimited funding and access to classified construction methods. After all, the United States military has long built underground facilities. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado, completed during the Cold War, is a hardened underground base capable of withstanding nuclear blasts. If such a facility existed 50 years ago, it's entirely plausible that Area 51 could house an even more advanced counterpart beneath its sands. Environmental systems visible around Hangar 18 offer further evidence. Oversized ventilation units, redundant air handlers, and industrial-grade filtration systems suggest support for subterranean operations. These systems are far more robust than what would be needed for a single surface-level structure. Likewise, drainage systems and water management infrastructure around the hangar appear overbuilt for conventional use. Subterranean facilities require extensive water control for cooling, plumbing, and potentially for industrial processes involved in experimental technologies. The time period during which much of this construction likely occurred, the 1980s, offered a strategic advantage. Satellite surveillance was still primitive compared to modern standards, and large-scale excavation could be carried out with less scrutiny. Furthermore, tunneling technologies from civilian infrastructure projects, such as subway systems, could have been repurposed for classified military applications without public awareness. Electromagnetic readings taken with civilian-grade survey equipment show further anomalies. Researchers have detected metallic signatures beneath Groom Lake that suggest regularly spaced artificial structures, possibly supporting columns, transportation rails, or even stored vehicles or aircraft below ground level. The communication infrastructure at the facility also appears excessive. Multiple antenna arrays and redundant transmission stations hint at the need to maintain secure communication with personnel or systems housed deep underground. Combined with public utility data, where accessible, it becomes clear that electrical consumption in the area exceeds what surface buildings would demand. Critics caution that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof. They argue that natural cavities or over-engineered foundations could explain many of the anomalies. However, the consistency of evidence, from seismic surveys to infrastructure patterns to first-hand testimonies, suggests more than coincidence. If this underground network exists, it redefines what Area 51 truly is. The base would be less a collection of surface buildings and more an iceberg with only a fraction of its mass visible. Beneath the dry earth of the Nevada desert may lie a sprawling research complex, where secrecy is measured not just in security clearance, but in depth. Within those hidden chambers, shielded by concrete, rock, and layers of classification, the real work of Area 51 may be taking place. Whether it involves advanced human technology or something not of this earth remains unknown. But in the silent dark beneath Hangar 18, the answers may already exist, sealed away far beyond the reach of any satellite or civilian eye. Chapter 8: Government Denials and Limited Admissions. For more than 3 decades, the official stance of the United States government regarding Hangar 18 was as stark as it was strategic. The building did not exist. Area 51 did not exist. And inquiries into either were met with polite deflection or absolute silence. This was not simple bureaucratic evasion. It was a calculated policy of strategic silence, carefully designed to avoid confirming or denying anything while offering legal cover. If a facility officially did not exist, then questions about its purpose or contents became irrelevant within the framework of government accountability. For years, this tactic was surprisingly effective. Freedom of Information Act requests, filed by journalists, researchers, and private citizens seeking documentation about Hangar 18, routinely returned form letters stating that no records could be located because no such facility was acknowledged. Congressional inquiries received classified briefings that met oversight requirements without disclosing any substantive operational information. Even military personnel who had served at Area 51 faced a bizarre legal paradox. They could not speak about duties tied to locations that officially did not exist. Security clearances and lifelong non-disclosure agreements extended to facilities that were, on paper, non-existent. Veterans who wished to share their experiences could not do so without violating laws governing classified material, even if the place they worked at was never acknowledged in public records. This delicate balance began to shift in the early 2000s. The public's increasing interest in government secrecy coincided with major advancements in commercial satellite imaging. By the early 2010s, satellite imagery of Groom Lake clearly revealed a sprawling complex of buildings, runways, and support infrastructure. Continued denial of Area 51's existence began to seem not just evasive, but absurd. The pivotal moment came in 2013. That year, in response to a Freedom of Information Act request filed many years prior, the Central Intelligence Agency declassified documents that, for the first time, officially acknowledged the existence of Area 51. The documents detailed the site's use during the Cold War for testing high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, including the U-2 and the A-12 Oxcart. The release was highly selective and clearly intended to diffuse public scrutiny without compromising current operations. The declassified material focused almost entirely on historical programs that had long since entered the public domain. No mention was made of current projects, no specific facilities were identified, and most notably for researchers, there was no reference to Hangar 18. This type of limited disclosure follows a well-established pattern within intelligence circles. Agencies release historical information to relieve pressure, maintain a veneer of transparency, and avoid deeper scrutiny, while guarding contemporary activities with absolute secrecy. A careful reading of the 2013 documents reveals language meticulously crafted to acknowledge past programs without exposing present ones. Vague references to test sites and storage hangars are made, but none are specific. Descriptions of security measures are general, emphasizing the protection of classified technology, but without stating what that technology entails. Congressional oversight operates in a similarly limited capacity. Members of intelligence committees in the House and Senate may receive briefings on Area 51's operations, but such briefings are heavily classified. Even if elected officials are made aware of specific facilities like Hangar 18, they are legally bound by secrecy laws and cannot disclose what they have learned, even when questioned directly by their constituents. Legal efforts to force broader disclosure have largely failed. Courts consistently uphold the government's right to withhold information under national security exemptions. Judges have repeatedly ruled that the public's interest in disclosure does not outweigh the potential risks posed by revealing sensitive operational details. In the few instances where courts have sided with plaintiffs, the results have been modest. Declassified information has tended to focus on historical environmental assessments, worker safety issues, or general infrastructure details. Never anything that reveals the purpose of specific buildings like Hangar 18. Former military personnel who have attempted to speak publicly about activities at Area 51 do so at significant personal risk. Unauthorized disclosure can result in the loss of security clearance, termination from defense-related employment, and even criminal penalties. Some veterans have spoken anonymously, while others have relocated outside the United States in attempts to evade potential retaliation. Official statements about Hangar 18 remain non-committal. When asked directly, government spokespersons typically acknowledge that aircraft testing occurs at Area 51, while refusing to comment on the existence or function of specific buildings. Questions about exotic aircraft or non-conventional technologies are brushed aside with the explanation that experimental aviation inherently involves unusual configurations. This language is intentional. Terms like installation, facility, and test site are deliberately vague. References to experimental craft allow room for ambiguity. Whether the subject is a stealth drone, a next-generation fighter jet, or something far more unconventional, across multiple administrations, Democratic and Republican, the official approach has remained consistent. Limited historical disclosure is allowed, but current operations remain classified. This continuity suggests that policy decisions about disclosure are made primarily by career, military, and intelligence officials, rather than by political leaders. Recent developments in unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, reporting have added pressure for transparency. In recent years, Congress has mandated official reports from intelligence agencies addressing unexplained sightings by military personnel. While these disclosures mark a shift in tone, they focus on observed phenomena, not on where such objects may be studied or stored. This legal shift opens the door for future questions about facilities like Hangar 18. If the government admits that UAPs pose a potential security risk, then public interest in where such objects might be analysed becomes increasingly valid. Still, the current structure allows officials to discuss sightings without revealing any details about locations or programs that might be involved in their study. International cooperation adds another layer of complexity. Many classified aerospace projects involve collaboration with allied nations. Information about these programs cannot be unilaterally released by the United States without violating international agreements. Even if domestic political pressure favors disclosure, global diplomatic obligations may require continued secrecy. The current legal and policy framework is the result of decades of effort to balance public curiosity, national security, and international collaboration. And in that framework, Hangar 18 occupies a unique space, visible from the sky, rumoured in countless reports, yet still unnamed in official documentation. Despite the world's growing access to information, Hangar 18 remains cloaked by a veil of bureaucratic ambiguity. The facility undeniably exists. Anyone with an internet connection can see it, but its true purpose remains buried behind layers of classification and legal obfuscation. Until something fundamentally changes through political upheaval, legal breakthroughs, or deliberate declassification, the government's position will remain unchanged. Hangar 18 will continue to exist in the shadows, shielded by law, protected by silence, and hidden in plain sight. Chapter 9. The F-117 Connection. They call it the Wobbling Goblin. Officially, the F-117 Nighthawk was retired from active service in 2008, its mission declared complete after decades of pioneering stealth operations. Once a closely guarded secret, the angular black aircraft now sits in museums or occasionally flies at air shows, where civilians can finally glimpse a technology that was once hidden in plain sight. But in the restricted skies above Area 51, the F-117 refuses to stay retired. In recent years, aviation photographers and dedicated observers have repeatedly documented the Nighthawk's presence at Groom Lake, its unmistakable triangular silhouette cutting through the desert sky. More notably, some of these aircraft have been seen using Hangar 18, a facility often tied to rumours far beyond standard aviation programs. The connection between the F-117 and Area 51 runs far deeper than most people know. While operational missions during its active years were flown out of Tonopah Test Range, the aircraft's earliest development stages played out at Groom Lake. The HAV Blue prototype, an experimental proof of concept aircraft, first flew from the secretive runways of Area 51 in December of 1977. The Nighthawk's revolutionary design prioritized radar invisibility over aerodynamics. Sharp angles, flat panels, and a faceted structure were chosen to reflect radar signals away from their origin. At the time, the idea seemed radical. Aircraft weren't supposed to look like flying crystals. Yet, it worked, and the F-117 became the world's first true stealth aircraft. Stealth, however, has not stood still. In today's world of quantum sensors, artificial intelligence-enhanced tracking systems, and multi-spectrum radar arrays, yesterday's stealth is no longer good enough. The technology race continues, and new detection methods are pushing stealth development into uncharted territory. This makes the continued use of F-117 aircraft at Area 51 not just reasonable, but strategically sound. These are not obsolete relics, they are test beds. With well-documented radar signatures and known performance limitations, the Nighthawk provides an ideal baseline platform to test new stealth materials, sensor configurations, and electronic warfare systems. In August of 2024, Michael Rokita captured footage showing RAT-55, an unidentified aircraft, entering Hangar 18. Yet that was not the only surprise in his recording. Alongside the unknown aircraft were several active F-117 airframes operating in and around the base. Their presence during the same time period strongly suggests they were part of a coordinated mission or testing sequence. Aviation experts believe some of these F-117 aircraft have been retrofitted with experimental components. These may include next-generation radar-absorbing materials, alternative propulsion systems, or advanced flight control algorithms. Since the airframe is already declassified to a degree, it serves as an ideal cover for testing cutting-edge technologies without revealing newer designs. The use of Hangar 18 supports the idea that the Nighthawk is involved in something more than routine evaluation. The hangar's specialized environmental systems, electromagnetic shielding, and containment protocols are perfect for hosting aircraft outfitted with exotic or sensitive systems. Whatever is being tested likely exceeds the scope of traditional maintenance facilities. One prominent theory suggests that the F-117 now acts as a surrogate platform for alien or reverse-engineered systems. Instead of risking a new and unfamiliar craft in the open, engineers might embed alien-inspired technologies into an aircraft the world already knows. That way, test flights can occur without attracting undue attention, even if the performance begins to deviate from expectations. In fact, several witnesses have reported that some F-117 aircraft flying from Area 51 exhibit behaviors inconsistent with their original design. These include tighter turn radii, extended flight durations, and unusual noise, or lack thereof, during operation. Such deviations hint at radical internal modifications, possibly involving hybrid propulsion systems or advanced control technologies. Security surrounding these flights is unusually strict, even for Area 51 standards. Movements are timed to avoid satellite passes, and operations often occur during periods of poor atmospheric visibility. This level of control indicates that the missions remain sensitive despite the aircraft's declassified status. Some suggest that the F-117 is used not only for testing, but also for secure transportation. Its stealth capabilities and familiarity to base personnel make it ideal for moving sensitive components or material between facilities without drawing attention. Anything loaded into the Nighthawk would likely go unnoticed, both by radar and by internal observers accustomed to seeing the aircraft. There's also a psychological utility to keeping the Nighthawk airborne. Its continued operation offers a conventional explanation for unusual radar returns or unexplained flight paths. In a place like Area 51, where sightings fuel speculation, a known airframe like the F-117 becomes a useful diversion, hiding extraordinary activities behind the familiar. That said, the Nighthawk's airframe does have limitations. Advancements in stealth geometry, materials science, and integrated systems have moved far beyond the original design. Still, its presence in modern test scenarios suggests it fulfills a role newer aircraft cannot, perhaps due to the very predictability and familiarity of its profile. Its integration with Hangar 18 operations brings together two distinct aspects of black aerospace programs: the known and the unknown. The Nighthawk stands as a bridge between declassified technologies and experimental systems that still reside in the shadows. Whether this bridge leads to incremental advancements or a leap into entirely new technological frontiers remains to be seen. After all, the F-117 was once thought impossible until it became reality. If rumours about Hangar 18 hold even a grain of truth, then the Nighthawk's continued role may be less about what it is and more about what it is helping to become. In the secretive world of advanced aerospace, where yesterday's impossibilities become tomorrow's prototypes, the wobbling goblin still flies, haunting the skies of Area 51, where retirement is just another classified term for transformation. Chapter 10. Comparing Hangar Theories Worldwide. Area 51 is not the only place on Earth where vast hangars are used to shelter classified aircraft from public view. Across the globe, from the deserts of western China to the remote forests of Russia, and even within the secure compounds of allied nations, similarly concealed facilities perform comparable roles. However, when placed beside the enigmatic Hangar 18, the differences become just as revealing as the similarities. Understanding what sets Hangar 18 apart begins with studying how other nations address the same challenge, protecting advanced aerospace technology while preserving operational readiness. The way each country approaches this reveals not only technological priorities, but also what each government believes is worthy of its most guarded levels of security. Russia's method of safeguarding experimental aircraft follows a philosophy established during the Soviet Union. At the Zhukovsky Test and Development Base, located southeast of Moscow, aircraft are stored in fortified concrete structures built for durability and harsh weather, not necessarily secrecy. Hangars here, particularly those operated by the Sukhoi Design Bureau, are designed for functionality and operational efficiency rather than to mislead or shield from surveillance satellites. This reflects a broader Russian strategy: rely more on restricted airspace and geographical remoteness than on architectural concealment. Satellite images regularly reveal aircraft activity at Zhukovsky, with only moderate effort made to hide them from orbital observation. By contrast, the United States measures at Area 51, and specifically Hangar 18, suggest a vastly different level of concern about being watched. China's approach reveals a newer, more adaptive response to modern surveillance threats. At the Chengdu Aircraft Design Institute and the Dingxin Test and Training Base in the Gobi Desert, there is clear evidence of planning to reduce satellite visibility. Hangars are oriented to avoid overhead lines of sight, and vehicle or aircraft movements appear to be coordinated around known satellite pass schedules. The Dingxin facility, in particular, draws parallels with Area 51. Its large hangars, robust perimeter defenses, and environmental control systems indicate operations involving cutting-edge aerospace testing. Yet, even with these enhancements, the level of concealment, infrastructure, isolation, and operational secrecy still do not fully compare to what is observed around Hangar 18. In Europe, hangars dedicated to advanced aircraft development reveal different design priorities. At the Before Anyone Else Systems site in Wharton, England, experimental aircraft are developed and tested in secure but multi-purpose facilities. These hangars must balance security with the industrial demands of production and collaboration. Similarly, France's Istres Air Base hosts a variety of next-generation aircraft, including the Rafale and other future combat air systems. Hangars at Istres are modern, secure, and optimized for development testing, but they exist within an open democratic system with more transparency, political oversight, and legal restrictions, conditions that influence both their size and capabilities. One of the closest analogues to American secrecy exists in Israel. The Palmachim Air Base and similar sites prioritize concealment, fast response, and layers of electronic security. With limited territory and immense security challenges, Israel's hangar designs reflect urgent national defense needs. Yet, even here, the facilities do not reach the same scale or isolation level found at Hangar 18. What makes Hangar 18 unique is not just its size or security, it is the combination of factors. Its environmental systems appear engineered to protect more than just machinery. They suggest an internal environment carefully controlled for unknown variables. Its physical distance from other operational areas and the extent of restricted airspace above it goes beyond normal military caution. Then, there are the persistent theories of underground expansion. While it is true that many countries have underground aerospace or military facilities used primarily for command centers or specialized testing chambers, the scale implied at Hangar 18, if accurate, would be unmatched globally. For comparison, the Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado represents one of the most advanced underground facilities ever built by the United States. Constructed during the Cold War as a NORAD command bunker, Cheyenne Mountain proves American capability for subterranean engineering. But its role is control, not aircraft storage or testing. Creating hangars large enough for operational aircraft underground would be vastly more complex. International cooperation adds yet another contrast. Most Allied countries, particularly those within NATO, operate within frameworks that allow shared access to advanced technology. Facilities like the Woomera test range in Australia show how Allied cooperation shapes hangar design and operations. Woomera, often used jointly with American defense programs, has stringent security, yet it is designed for collaborative testing, not isolation. Hangar 18, by contrast, appears to operate in near-complete isolation. If the aircraft or technologies inside were purely conventional, albeit classified, then such extreme detachment from Allied partnerships would be highly unusual. Typically, stealth aircraft, hypersonic systems, and electronic warfare tools are developed with at least some international consultation or alignment. Budget also plays a role in global facility construction. Most nations must strike a balance between secrecy and cost. Hangar 18, however, shows signs of an investment level that far surpasses most known aerospace programs. Its maintenance, upgrades, and the sheer footprint of the site indicate a long-term project with seemingly unlimited resources. Technological factors matter too. Environmental control, power systems, electromagnetic shielding all require advanced infrastructure. The sophistication of Hangar 18 in these areas points to either technologies beyond what other nations can deploy, or a perceived need to protect something far more sensitive than stealth jets or drone prototypes. Even the timeline offers insight. Most international aerospace test facilities date back to the Cold War, particularly the 1960s through the 1980s. Hangar 18 was constructed during the 1980s, yet its scale, reinforcement, and continual evolution suggest an urgency and secrecy that exceeded the norms of that already secretive era. Environmental factors, too, impact design. Area 51 benefits from a remote desert location with minimal interference, ideal for preserving aircraft and minimizing electromagnetic noise. Facilities near population centers, like those in Europe, face different challenges in both privacy and testing fidelity. When examined as a whole, the global comparison only reinforces Hangar 18's unusual nature. While many nations protect advanced aerospace assets in well-secured hangars, none match the combined scale, secrecy, isolation, and technological infrastructure seen at Area 51. Whether Hangar 18 protects bleeding-edge human technology or something more unusual remains speculative. But in a world where every major power shelters its secrets in steel and concrete, Hangar 18 remains alone, shielding something the rest of the world either does not possess or does not yet understand. Chapter 11. The Reverse Engineering Question. If alien technology is truly housed inside Hangar 18, then the most urgent question is not where it came from, but what human scientists and engineers are doing with it. Reverse engineering such technology represents one of the most daunting challenges in scientific history, a task that could require not just decades, but generations of study. This process is nothing like what Hollywood suggests. You do not simply pry open a spacecraft and recreate it overnight. In reality, reverse engineering demands endless patience, massive infrastructure, and a level of specialization that only a few nations on Earth could ever hope to support. To reverse engineer an alien propulsion system, engineers would first need to understand materials that may not exist anywhere in nature as we know it. These could include exotic alloys or elements with atomic structures that defy our current understanding of chemistry and physics. Analyzing such substances would require advanced, non-destructive testing at the molecular or even subatomic level, equipment far beyond most existing laboratory standards. The physical infrastructure alone would be staggering. Ultra-clean laboratories, kept at exact humidity and temperature levels, would be essential. Electromagnetic shielding would need to prevent outside interference with delicate alien components. Hazard containment systems would have to be designed for materials that could be toxic, radioactive, or react in unpredictable ways to Earth's atmosphere. Personnel needs would be no less complex. You would need materials scientists versed in unknown compounds, physicists who understand theoretical propulsion models, and engineers experienced in disassembling foreign systems without destroying them. All would have to pass extreme security screenings, as even a single misstep could compromise what might be humanity's most significant technological discovery. Suddenly, the seemingly excessive specifications of Hangar 18 begin to make sense. A building of that size could easily house not just intact craft, but multiple research labs, isolated test chambers, and secure storage areas for sensitive materials. What might appear to be over-engineering becomes entirely logical when framed as a long-term reverse engineering site. Even environmental controls that exceed military standards are understandable in this context. Materials unknown to Earth might degrade rapidly under typical atmospheric conditions. Likewise, intense electromagnetic shielding would be critical when studying systems that operate through exotic field manipulation or advanced energy systems. The timeline for reverse engineering any single component might stretch across decades. Just determining the properties of a new material could take years. Attempting to recreate the manufacturing process for that material might take decades more. Developing working Earth-based versions of an alien energy or propulsion system could span the entire careers of multiple generations of researchers. This extended timeline explains the continual expansion and redevelopment seen around Area 51 over the past several decades. As new insights emerge, new infrastructure is required: cleaner labs, larger test areas, and more advanced containment systems. The base evolves, piece by piece, to keep up with the slow, deliberate progress of reverse engineering work. Security through compartmentalization would be essential. Most personnel would only have access to isolated pieces of a much larger puzzle. A scientist might spend 10 years analyzing a single component without ever knowing what system it came from. Another might work on propulsion effects without ever seeing the craft that generated them. This explains why insider accounts so often seem fragmented. Each testimony might be accurate from a limited perspective, but no one person sees the full picture. One of the greatest barriers to full reverse engineering may lie not in understanding the technology, but in recreating the tools needed to manufacture it. Imagine handing a 19th century blacksmith a modern microchip and asking him to make another. He may eventually understand its structure, but he will lack the means to reproduce it. The gap between alien manufacturing and Earth's industrial capacity could be just as wide. Breakthroughs, when they come, may yield only partial functionality. Human adaptations of alien designs might work, but at greatly reduced efficiency or with bulky support systems the original did not require. These limitations could explain why the world has not seen dramatic, undeniable shifts in technology despite decades of alleged access to non-human artifacts. Still, it is possible that existing advances, particularly in stealth technology, which emerged dramatically during the 1980s and 1990s, reflect limited success in applying alien concepts. The development of radar-absorbent materials, unusual aircraft geometries, and field-manipulating electronics occurred rapidly and in ways that may align with the trickle-down effects of partial reverse engineering. Likewise, the accelerated pace of materials science, including the introduction of exotic alloys and composite materials, may reflect access to samples of alien substances serving as templates for human research and development. Yet the absence of truly world-altering breakthroughs suggests that complete replication remains elusive. If a reverse engineering program exists, it would not be contained within Hangar 18 alone. It would require support from additional laboratories, manufacturing centers, and remote test facilities. The entire Area 51 complex may represent only the most visible portion of a massive distributed research initiative. Speculated underground installations beneath the base seem plausible when considered from this angle. Electromagnetic isolation, vibration control, and air purity requirements could necessitate environments only achievable deep underground, beyond the interference of the surface world. The economics of such an effort would be immense, but also justifiable. Even partial success in reverse engineering alien technology could yield military advantages worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Complete success might unlock energy sources or travel methods that reshape global civilization. International collaboration would be a difficult choice. On one hand, sharing findings with allied nations might accelerate progress. On the other, it would increase the risk of leaks or losing strategic control. The apparent isolation of Hangar 18 from broader aerospace collaboration may reflect a deliberate choice to maintain exclusivity over any potential discoveries. From a scientific perspective, the cost of secrecy is high. Reverse engineering programs, by their nature, must operate in isolation, without peer review or open discussion. This slows progress and increases the risk of errors going uncorrected for years. Yet for now, those trade-offs are apparently accepted as necessary. In the end, success might not look like a fully functional alien spacecraft. It might come in the form of energy systems, propulsion designs, or materials innovations that push human technology forward by decades. Even a few recovered principles could shift the course of history. Whether such efforts are truly underway within Hangar 18 remains uncertain, but the facility's characteristics, its size, isolation, infrastructure, and secrecy, align with what such a project would require. Behind those massive silent doors, humanity may already be studying the tools of another civilization, one component at a time. Chapter 12: Recent Expansions and New Construction. The Nevada desert does not forget. Every structure raised, every building altered, and every new scar across the sun-baked lakebed is recorded by satellites orbiting far above. And at Area 51, those satellite images tell a compelling story, one of continuous expansion, evolving missions, and a dramatic increase in capabilities. Over the past decade, the scale of development has grown so significantly that even the legendary Hangar 18 now appears dwarfed by what is unfolding nearby. The most striking addition to the base lies at its southern edge, where a massive new hangar complex has emerged from the desert floor. Construction began around the year 2020, and the facility's dimensions are nothing short of astonishing. The footprint spans an area large enough to contain several football fields, and its towering height suggests accommodation for the largest aircraft ever conceived, or perhaps something even more unconventional. But this is no ordinary hangar. Its design reveals features that point to entirely new operational paradigms. There are multiple bay doors, each capable of independent operation. The facility includes a pass-through layout, meaning vehicles or objects can enter through one side and exit through another without ever needing to reverse direction. Most intriguingly, the internal configuration seems to suggest a form of production line infrastructure rather than simple aircraft storage or maintenance. When viewed alongside recent developments in military strategy, the purpose behind this construction becomes clearer. Around the same period, between 2020 and 2024, the United States military significantly escalated its investment in drone swarm technologies. Unlike individual unmanned aerial vehicles, drone swarms operate in coordinated groups of dozens or even hundreds, working together as a cohesive system. This new reality presents unprecedented logistical challenges. Traditional hangars were designed to house, service, and launch individual aircraft. But how do you manage 50 or 100 drones? How do you service them efficiently? How do you upload coordinated mission protocols across an entire swarm, prepare them for simultaneous deployment, and do all of this under the high security demands of a facility like Area 51? The newly constructed hangar complex appears to have been designed precisely with those questions in mind. Satellite analysis shows what may be automated handling systems, perhaps conveyor belts or rail-guided vehicles, moving drones through various operational stations. There are zones that could serve as programming areas for mission software and large staging spaces where groups of drones could be assembled prior to takeoff. The pass-through design is particularly telling. Rather than using the same doors for entry and exit, the layout suggests a continuous flow from prep to deployment, an industrial philosophy applied to aircraft operations. This is not about carefully tending to complex, high-value machines. It is about throughput, volume, and efficiency. This marks a fundamental shift in military aviation philosophy. Traditional aircraft are complex, expensive platforms, often requiring years of training and maintenance for safe operation. Drone swarms, by contrast, are built on expendability. Their units are cheaper, simpler, and designed to be deployed in large numbers, often without concern for recovery. Where Hangar 18 might house a handful of cutting-edge stealth aircraft or experimental platforms, the new hangar complex appears capable of managing hundreds of smaller aerial units simultaneously. This is not an upgrade, it is an evolution. There is speculation among analysts that the new facilities and Hangar 18 may serve complementary roles. Some theories suggest that Hangar 18 contains larger, more advanced command and control platforms, possibly even mothership aircraft, that direct drone swarms managed from the newer complex. If true, This would represent a sophisticated, layered operational architecture. Other possibilities suggest that these newer hangars are simply the next generation of aerospace experimentation, testing technologies that might one day be transferred to even more sensitive programs within Hangar 18. Drone swarms, after all, are ideal test beds for advanced propulsion systems, new materials, or novel control algorithms. The scale and design of these new buildings support such theories. The climate control systems visible through thermal imaging are far larger than what would be needed for basic drone storage. Power infrastructure at the site suggests high energy demand, consistent with manufacturing or advanced systems testing. Meanwhile, antenna arrays and communication equipment appear capable of coordinating complex, multi-aircraft missions. These are not facilities built for a short-term project. The investment indicates programs meant to last for decades. The security measures surrounding the new complex, while not as intense as those around Hangar 18, still exceed what is typical for even the most secretive military sites. Construction timelines also align with wider U.S. military shifts toward distributed aerial operations and artificial intelligence. As the focus moves away from a few high-value aircraft toward vast numbers of smaller, networked units, facilities like this become essential. They are not merely supporting roles, they are foundational. Other countries have begun similar initiatives, but none have constructed anything quite as sophisticated as what is now visible in Nevada. That disparity suggests that Area 51 remains the epicenter of the most advanced aerospace research on the planet. Interestingly, some civilian applications mirror this development. Drone technologies are already being used for surveillance, industrial inspection, and package delivery. Advancements made at Area 51 may quietly shape these industries as well, either through direct technology transfer or by pushing boundaries that commercial sectors eventually follow. Yet, despite these parallels, certain aspects of the new construction surpass anything seen in civilian contexts. The electromagnetic signatures around the site suggest the presence of high-powered radar, secure data links, and hardened communication networks. These could support real-time swarm coordination, or perhaps simulate hostile environments for stress testing new drone systems. Speculation persists about underground facilities linked to the new hangars. Ground-penetrating radar data and excavation patterns indicate the possibility of subterranean spaces. These could house secure control centers, storage areas for classified systems, or perhaps computing infrastructure for artificial intelligence operations that manage swarm behavior. Personnel movements in and around the site also support the theory that this is more than just another hangar. Analysts have identified the presence of software engineers, AI specialists, and systems integration experts, indicating that the facility is as much about digital systems as physical aircraft. The acoustic data gathered remotely also supports drone swarm testing. Unlike conventional aircraft hangars, where testing involves one or two planes, this facility appears to engage multiple aircraft simultaneously, suggesting emphasis on coordination and interaction over individual performance. In the absence of public environmental impact reports, often required for new federal construction, the full nature of the facility remains hidden. But that very lack of documentation may itself indicate the extreme sensitivity of the programs underway. Whether the new hangar complex directly connects to Hangar 18's rumored extraterrestrial activities, or simply represents the future of terrestrial military aviation, one fact is undeniable. Area 51 is expanding, evolving, and preparing for operations that far exceed anything previously seen. Where Hangar 18 may represent the origin point of aerospace secrecy, these new structures may represent its future, a future of autonomous warfare, machine coordination, and industrial-scale aerial deployment. In the shadow of legends, new capabilities rise, turning the Nevada desert into the cradle of tomorrow's aerospace frontiers. Chapter 13: The Security Apparatus Around Hangar 18. Imagine the challenge of protecting what could be the most important secret in human history. What kind of system would be necessary? How many layers of defense would suffice? How much surveillance could be justified before it became oppressive? How do you secure something so sensitive that even confirming its existence could pose an unacceptable risk? The security surrounding Hangar 18 is an answer to all of these questions. It represents not merely a defense perimeter, but a philosophy, one that sees secrecy as a strategic imperative. What exists around and within the hangar is not standard military protection. It is a vast, multi-layered security apparatus designed to keep the world's most guarded secrets sealed away from even the faintest scrutiny. The outermost layer begins well beyond the hangar itself. Restricted airspace over Area 51 stretches across miles of desert sky, preventing civilian aircraft from approaching within observational range. Any unauthorized entry into this space is tracked instantly by high-resolution radar systems, with military response times measured in minutes rather than hours. On the ground, the challenge becomes even more daunting. The fencing around Area 51 extends for miles, but the fence is not what truly keeps intruders out. Beneath the desert soil lie motion sensors capable of detecting footsteps hundreds of yards away. Sophisticated seismic detectors differentiate between wildlife, vehicles, and human beings with such accuracy that stealth approaches are nearly impossible. The famous warning signs, declaring that use of deadly force is authorized, serve as both legal notice and psychological deterrent. These warnings are not idle threats. Armed patrols have standing orders to respond to unauthorized presence with whatever force is necessary, and given the remote location, such confrontations occur well away from media coverage or outside interference. However, breaching the perimeter is only the beginning of the challenge. Even inside Area 51, Hangar 18 occupies a specially restricted zone. Entry is granted only to personnel with the highest security clearances and an immediate operational need to be present. Most base personnel never set foot anywhere near it. Vehicle checkpoints monitor traffic heading toward the inner zone. Identification cards are scanned against secure databases that verify not only clearance levels, but also current assignments and time-sensitive access permissions. Any discrepancy triggers immediate detention and investigation, regardless of rank or history. The roads leading to the hangar are laid out deliberately to obscure direct lines of sight and limit observational angles. Surveillance cameras with infrared and night vision capabilities monitor every route. Motion tracking systems identify patterns of movement, and any irregularity triggers automatic alerts sent to centralized command centers. Electronic surveillance near Hangar 18 operates at levels that exceed even other top-secret government installations. Radio frequency monitors detect unauthorized communications, including attempts to use mobile phones, satellite uplinks, or other wireless devices. The facility is equipped with electronic warfare systems capable of jamming, intercepting, or neutralizing such transmissions. The building itself is a fortress. Multiple secure access points require biometric authentication, fingerprints, retinal scans, and facial recognition are all used, often in combination. Access is limited by both clearance level and operational relevance. Someone cleared for one section of the hangar may be denied access to another. This ensures that no single individual possesses full knowledge of what lies within. Inside, surveillance is equally intense. Monitoring systems track not just movement, but behavioral indicators, changes in voice stress, irregular motion, or uncharacteristic activity may be flagged for human review. There is no expectation of privacy. Every action taken within the hangar is subject to continuous analysis. The electromagnetic shielding of the hangar is another layer of defense. Built like a Faraday cage, the structure is designed to prevent signals from escaping or entering. This stops external electronic surveillance and contains any emissions from classified activity within the facility. Personnel screening for Hangar 18 goes well beyond standard background checks. Investigations include extended family, past associates, financial behavior, and psychological history. Polygraph exams focus on more than loyalty. They assess emotional stability and capacity to handle extreme stress. Clearance levels are compartmentalized to an unprecedented degree. One technician might be cleared to work on a piece of recovered material, but know nothing about where it came from or how it is being used. This vertical separation of knowledge prevents leaks by limiting how much any single person can reveal. Weapon detection systems continuously scan for dangerous items using technology that surpasses even what is found in international airports. Communication protocols strictly prohibit discussions of work outside secure environments, and any violations are treated as serious breaches, regardless of classification level. Transportation within the secure zone follows strict blind access rules. Personnel are moved using vehicles with covered windows or restricted views, ensuring they see only the areas for which they are cleared. Even movement is a controlled aspect of information flow. Digital security is just as rigorous. Computer systems tied to Hangar 18 are isolated from other base networks. Multi-layered encryption, physical access restrictions, and constant network monitoring ensure that no data leaves the system unless specifically authorized. In the event of an emergency, rapid lockdown protocols isolate the facility within minutes. These systems are designed to contain any incident, medical, technical, or security-related, without compromising ongoing operations or exposing sensitive material. Personnel rotation policies limit long-term access to classified knowledge. No one remains in a single role long enough to fully piece together the entire picture. This practice, though disruptive, ensures that no individual becomes a single point of failure for secrecy. International adversaries continue to target Area 51 through surveillance satellites, signal interception, and human intelligence. The United States responds with counterintelligence efforts and active electronic warfare, protecting the facility not just as a military asset, but as a matter of national security. Federal law supports these protections. Disclosure of information related to Hangar 18 is a criminal offence, with penalties that extend far beyond prison sentences. They effectively end any future in defence or aerospace work. Despite this monumental effort, information continues to leak. Human error, emotional breakdowns, and personal convictions occasionally pierce even the best designed security system. It is a reminder that perfection in secrecy is a myth. Ultimately, the security surrounding Hangar 18 may reveal more than its architecture or defenses. It represents humanity's greatest effort to protect something we may not yet be ready to confront. Whether that secret involves alien technology or simply the edge of human innovation, the protection around it suggests one thing above all else. We believe it matters enough to guard with everything we have. Chapter 14: What the footage really proves. Let us step back from decades of swirling speculation and examine what we can actually confirm. Michael Rokita's footage, captured in August of 2024, marks the first verified documentation of a classified aircraft entering the infamous Hangar 18. But what does this footage truly prove? How much of the enduring mystery remains tethered to assumption, conjecture, and the persistent pull of the extraordinary? The footage solidifies several facts that were, until recently, based only on rumor and indirect inference. First and foremost, Hangar 18 is clearly an active and operational facility. It is not a dormant storage space or a decommissioned relic of the Cold War. The hangar's enormous doors operate with mechanical precision, indicating regular use. This alone debunks theories that the structure serves only as a monument to a bygone era of aerospace experimentation. Instead, it functions as a central part of ongoing classified operations. Second, the footage confirms that classified aircraft are indeed utilizing Hangar 18. The aircraft in question, identified as RAT-55, connects the hangar to programs of known experimental aviation. This particular aircraft is designed for radar cross-section testing, a task firmly rooted in conventional military development. Its presence provides a straightforward, terrestrial explanation for its mission, one that does not demand alien spacecraft or extraterrestrial technology to make sense. Yet, for all it clarifies, the footage also raises questions that conventional explanations do not completely resolve. Why, for instance, would a radar test bed require access to Hangar 18 specifically? The facility's immense scale and physical isolation suggest it was designed with requirements far beyond the routine needs of aircraft evaluation. The synchronized movements of multiple aircraft and ground systems, visible in Rokita's recording, imply coordination within a much broader, deeply integrated testing program. Herein lies the central challenge: separating what the evidence genuinely reveals from what decades of speculative lore have primed us to see. The long-standing mythos surrounding alien artifacts and secret government recoveries casts a long shadow over any new data. Within that context, every anomaly becomes suspect, every unexplained detail a potential clue pointing to the extraordinary. Consider RAT-55 once more. Its advanced capability to measure radar and electromagnetic signatures would make it ideal for evaluating stealth aircraft. But that same capability could, at least hypothetically, be applied to analyzing the energy fields or materials associated with a recovered extraterrestrial craft. Both interpretations are technically feasible, yet only one is supported by existing evidence. The other, while not impossible, remains speculative. The aircraft's call sign, Sabre 98, and its known mission profile align with ongoing military initiatives to develop next-generation stealth and air dominance platforms. Programs such as the B-21 Raider or the Next Generation Air Dominance Initiative would undeniably require the kind of data RAT-55 is built to collect. This conventional framework offers a logical, grounded rationale for the aircraft's presence. After all, Area 51 has long served as the United States' premier location for classified aerospace testing. From the U-2 in the 1950s to cutting-edge hypersonic systems in the present day, it has always stood at the intersection of innovation and secrecy. And yet, the footage does not debunk the alien technology theory either. If, in fact, non-human craft were housed at Hangar 18, the need for electromagnetic testing would be just as vital, perhaps even more so. In that scenario, RAT 55 could just as easily be analyzing advanced materials or systems beyond human comprehension. The timing of the activity captured by Rokita introduces yet another wrinkle. The operations occurred in broad daylight at a time when observation from Tikaboo Peak was possible. This runs counter to expectations surrounding ultra-sensitive operations. If truly extraterrestrial artifacts were involved, one would expect operations to be carried out under the cover of night or other obfuscating conditions. Instead, the openness of the activity suggests routine testing, not hidden contact with alien technology. The coordination of multiple aircraft types and ground units further supports the notion of a structured, ongoing test program. This level of complexity and integration is typical of large-scale weapons development, not isolated reverse engineering efforts. Still, skeptics of the conventional explanation are not without grounds for suspicion. Hangar 18's sheer size, its strategic separation from nearby facilities, and the imposing security measures all point to something that exceeds normal expectations. Features such as advanced environmental control systems and electromagnetic shielding suggest that the facility might house materials or technologies requiring extraordinary containment or analysis. However, absence of direct evidence for alien technology is not proof of its non-existence. It does, however, underscore the difference between what is possible and what is probable. As Carl Sagan once famously said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Despite numerous investigations over many decades, such definitive evidence has yet to emerge. Looking at the construction history offers further context. Hangar 18's development began in the 1980s, a time of radical advancements in stealth and aerospace technology. The hangar may simply reflect the needs of a new generation of aircraft, like the F-117 Nighthawk or the B-2 Spirit, both of which required unprecedented secrecy and technical support. Given this history, the hangar's sophisticated infrastructure might be entirely consistent with ambitious but human innovation. The presence of unusual electromagnetic fields, for example, could stem from testing advanced propulsion systems, novel materials, or highly classified electronic warfare capabilities. It is worth noting that other nations also operate high-security aerospace facilities, though none appear to rival Hangar 18's scale. This discrepancy may reflect differences in resources or strategic priorities rather than a monopoly on alien technology. The persistence of extraterrestrial theories, despite a lack of hard evidence, likely reflects psychological and cultural factors. Human beings are drawn to mystery and meaning. The belief in alien visitation often fills a void left by the unknown, feeding biases that shape how ambiguous data is interpreted. That said, suspicion of government secrecy is not unwarranted. In any democratic society, even classified operations deserve a baseline of transparency and accountability. The challenge is to balance skepticism with open-mindedness, to question what we are told while resisting the lure of unfounded speculation. Ultimately, Rokita's footage marks a turning point. It confirms that Hangar 18 is not a relic but a living, operational part of the US military-industrial complex. But it stops short of answering the most tantalizing question: what precisely demands such immense secrecy? This footage offers one more piece in the puzzle of Area 51. Whether the picture that eventually emerges reveals only the heights of human ingenuity or the first steps of contact with something beyond depends on discoveries yet to be made and truths still to be revealed. For now, the desert keeps its silence. The truth waits behind steel doors, shielded by a nation's security apparatus, and perhaps by humanity's unreadiness to face what may lie beyond. Chapter 15: The Hangar That Holds the Future. In the heart of the Nevada desert, rising starkly against the southern horizon, stands a structure known to some as Hangar 18. More than just concrete and steel, it symbolizes humanity's uneasy dance with the unknown, an imposing sentinel surrounded by layers of security more stringent than those guarding nuclear arsenals. Its presence is not merely architectural, it is philosophical. It poses a silent challenge to what we know and what we are willing to believe. So, what is Hangar 18 truly? Decades of witness accounts, declassified fragments, satellite imagery, and cryptic engineering blueprints have produced a picture that is both compelling and maddeningly inconclusive. The facility appears to be two things at once: a hub of conventional aerospace innovation and a vault for something far more enigmatic, perhaps even extraterrestrial in origin. Its ambiguity is not an accident. Rather, it is the consequence of a classification system designed to shield all sensitive activities, whether they stem from human ingenuity or something beyond Earth. The result is a paradox. Hangar 18 seems simultaneously unremarkable and unprecedented. What we know without speculation is simple. Hangar 18 is real, immense, and still operational. The safeguards in place, from restricted airspace to underground corridors, surpass those used in the protection of nuclear weapon sites. Its structural design hints at purposes that go beyond mere aircraft housing. Vault-like doors, reinforced sublevels, and electromagnetic shielding all suggest something more. Even if no alien artifacts reside within its walls, the mere possibility elevates its significance. As a center for cutting-edge military aircraft, propulsion systems, and next-generation materials, Hangar 18 would already rank among the most consequential sites on the planet. But consistent witness accounts, some dating back to the late 1940s, describe unusual craft, debris, and even biological specimens associated with the hangar. These claims, while unconfirmed, cannot be dismissed outright. Perhaps the truth lies in both domains. There may be no need to choose between human and alien technology. It is entirely plausible that Hangar 18 serves as a dual-purpose facility, advancing human aerospace research while also housing materials or knowledge not of this world. This duality forces us to reconsider recent technological leaps. The stealth revolution of the early 1980s, the sudden rise of composite materials, and abrupt breakthroughs in electronic warfare may not have stemmed from human genius alone. If even fragments of alien technology were recovered, possibly from incidents like the one near Roswell in 1947, they could have quietly informed decades of innovation. Such integration would be slow, careful, and largely hidden. Scientists might reverse engineer components without fully understanding their origin. Discoveries would be cloaked under generic terms like advanced aerospace research hiding the true scope from both public and peer review. As we look ahead, Hangar 18's mission may evolve once again. Climate change, dwindling resources, and shifting geopolitical dynamics create pressure for propulsion systems that do not rely on fossil fuels. If alien technology offers insights into clean energy or faster-than-light travel, then its relevance expands far beyond defense. Space colonization is another frontier. Establishing a permanent human presence on Mars or the Moon requires breakthroughs in propulsion, life support, and materials, areas where alien-derived knowledge could be critical. Moreover, the rise of quantum computing and artificial intelligence might allow current scientists to decode technologies that were indecipherable in previous generations. However, disclosure of such technology remains a political and ethical minefield. Any system capable of interstellar travel could also serve as a catastrophic weapon. Energy sources powerful enough to light a city could, in theory, destroy one. These dual-use concerns complicate the conversation about transparency. Secrecy, therefore, may be less about paranoia and more about caution. The knowledge locked away in Hangar 18 might simply be waiting for a time when humanity demonstrates the wisdom to wield it safely. There is also a human element to consider. The individuals who began work at the hangar during the 1980s are now retiring. A new generation is stepping in, scientists raised in an age of digital transparency, open data, and citizen surveillance. Their arrival introduces both risk and opportunity, fresh perspectives paired with the potential loss of undocumented institutional knowledge. Meanwhile, outside pressure continues to build. Commercial satellites provide ever sharper imagery. Civilian drones and private aerospace ventures are narrowing the gap between classified and observable technology. The idea of absolute secrecy is becoming outdated, not by policy but by progress. Public opinion, too, is shifting. Younger generations, shaped by decades of science fiction and increasing distrust in governmental opacity, are more open to the possibility of alien life and more demanding of answers. Democracies, by nature, require accountability, even in areas where secrecy is justified. The stakes of disclosure are vast. A nation holding even partial access to alien technology would gain unmatched strategic and economic advantages. The balance of global power could shift overnight, making it understandable, though ethically complex, why some governments might choose to withhold such information. At its core, the mystery of Hangar 18 may ultimately ask more of us than technical expertise. It may require a maturity of thought, an emotional and philosophical readiness to confront our place in a much larger universe. Are we prepared not only to learn that we are not alone, but to act wisely with that knowledge? Until that moment arrives, Hangar 18 endures, a monument to secrecy and potential, dread and hope. Its towering doors remain shut, its lights glow in the desert night. Inside, perhaps, lies a future we cannot yet comprehend, waiting patiently for a species still learning how to ask the right questions. In that silence, the hangar reminds us, some truths demand more than discovery. They demand readiness. Sweet dreams. And remember, the truth is out there, even if it's locked away in Hangar 18.